Live from Juneau, KTOO presents special Gab Alaska coverage of the 2020 State of the Judiciary address. I'm Jeremy Shea. We are standing by for Alaska Supreme Court Chief Justice Joel Bolger to deliver the annual speech in chambers of the Alaska House of Representatives here in Juneau. Chief Justice is a judge on the 5-member state Supreme Court, but also the administrative head of the entire court system and its approximately 700 full-time employees. The court system disposed of about 114,000 cases in the last fiscal year. In recent years, its backlog has grown. These speeches tend to focus on administrative issues like caseloads, staffing, and budgeting. This year, however, there's an elephant in the room. Since Justice Bolger's last speech to the legislature, Governor Mike Dunleavy used his veto power to cut some court system funding. The veto reflects what the state spent the previous year on abortions, according to the governor's budget documents. The Dunleavy administration characterized the Supreme Court as the only branch of state government that, quote, insists on state-funded elective abortions. Last February, the Alaska Supreme Court struck down a state law that restricted state funding for certain kinds of abortions. Dunleavy's veto is the subject of an American Civil Liberties Union lawsuit. It's referenced as one of the grounds to recall the governor in the official petition, and it raises concerns over separation of powers. Judges usually don't comment about politics or cases they might hear, but before Dunleavy's budget veto, Bolger did comment on the importance of judicial independence. Here's what he had to say to West High School students in Anchorage last February.
About an incident that was in the news last fall. Chief Justice John Roberts of the United States Supreme Court took issue with President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump had characterized a federal judge who ruled against his administration as a, quote, Obama judge. And Chief Justice Roberts responded immediately. And this is what he said. We do not have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges or Clinton judges. What we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level best to do equal right to those appearing before them. That independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for. I wanted to bring this up this morning because I agree with Chief Justice Roberts, and I want you to think about this idea as part of this program. In Alaska, we are lucky to have judges who are appointed based on their merit and not elected on a political platform. So when we face a problem like the one you will hear about this morning, we are not facing it as a political question. Instead, it is a legal question. What does the law mean based on our experience, logic, and common sense?
Again, that was Chief Justice Joel Bolger speaking a few months before Governor Dunleavy's budget veto raised separation of powers issues and led to court cases. We're unlikely to hear Bolger revisit that topic today. Justice Bolger is overseeing some systemic changes highlighted in the court system's last annual report, however. The state court system is expanding its relationship with tribal courts and now has written agreements to work with and refer some cases to 20 separate tribal courts, up from 13 in the previous year. It's also working through a plan to improve the court system's presence in rural communities. We're still standing by for the joint floor session to gavel back in and invite the Chief Justice in to deliver his address. The court system's transition off of a paper-based filing and record-keeping system also has some new target dates. Electronic filing and document management system being piloted at Kenai Peninsula courthouses is supposed to go statewide this year for certain case types. Joel Bolger has been on the Alaska Supreme Court since 2013. This is his second year as Chief Justice. Originally from Iowa, his legal career in Alaska began in the late 1970s with the Alaska Legal Services Corporation in Dillingham. The nonprofit provides legal services on civil matters to people with low income. Bolger has also been an assistant public defender in Utqiagvik, a private attorney in Kodiak, district court judge in Valdez, superior court judge in Kodiak, and a court of appeals judge in Anchorage. In the Capitol, we can see, it looks like the Senate has yet to join the House for the joint floor, but they're making their way over. Once again, this is a special broadcast of Alaska Supreme Court Chief Justice Joel Bolger's State of the Judiciary address to the Alaska Legislature. We're live in Juneau. Gab Alaska television crew is standing by in the Capitol. We're waiting on lawmakers to finish up some procedural housekeeping to pave the way for the judge to deliver his speech.
Will the House please come to order? In accordance with the provisions of Uniform Rule 51, I turn the gavel over to the President of the Senate, the Honorable Kathy Giessel.
Will the joint session please come to order for the purpose of hearing the state of the judiciary? Mr. Senate Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move and ask unanimous consent that the roll call of the Senate be waived and that all members be shown as present.
Seeing no objection, the roll call of the Senate will be waived and all members shown as present. Mr. House Majority Leader.
Madam President, I move and ask unanimous consent that the roll call of the House be waived and all members be shown as present.
Seeing no objection, the roll call of the House will be waived and all members shown as present. Will Senator Coghill and Representative Stutz please escort Chief Justice Bolger to the joint session?
The Chief Justice for the great state of Alaska, the Honorable Joel Bolger.
President Giessel, Speaker Edgman, honorable members of the 31st Alaska Legislature, and others who are joining us today, good morning. I very much appreciate this opportunity to address the joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives for today's State of the Judiciary address. First, please allow me to introduce my colleagues on the Alaska Supreme Court who are here with me today. First, Justice Daniel Winfrey. Justice Winfrey is a third-generation Alaskan from Fairbanks. He has served on the court since 2008. Justice Winfrey chairs the Alaska Court System Appellate Rules Committee, and he is the court's liaison to the National Conference of Bar Examiners. Justice Winfrey recently agreed to chair a special committee on the Code of Judicial Conduct. Justice Winfrey. Justice Craig Stowers served the court as Chief Justice from 2015 to 2018. He chairs the Alaska Court System Security and Preparedness Committee and also serves as a commissioner on the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws. But I'm saddened to report that Justice Stowers recently announced his retirement as of June of this year. So would you please join me in extending to Justice Stowers our warm congratulations for a job well done. Justice Peter Mawson joined the court in 2012. Justice Mawson chairs the court's Access to Civil Justice Committee and the Judicial Conference Planning Committee. Justice Mawson recently agreed to lead a team to a regional summit on regulatory reform and new ways to deliver legal services. Justice Mawson. Justice Susan Carney was appointed to the court in 2016. Justice Carney serves as chair of the court's Child in Need of Aid and Juvenile Delinquency Rules Committee and the court's Fairness, Diversity, and Equality Committee. Justice Carney has also been active as a judge and coach of the We the People Civics Competition for the past several years. Justice Carney. I would also like to introduce the new Administrative Director of the Alaska Court System, Stacy Mars. Ms. Mars previously served for 16 years as the statewide director of our Family Law Self-Help Center. She developed a triage approach for divorce and custody cases that has become a national model and has expanded our ability to provide language access services, alternative dispute resolution, and access to justice. Please join me in welcoming Stacy Mars. Thank you for your patience. I also want to recognize two people you are already familiar with. The court system excellent administrative staff here in Juneau for the legislative session. Deputy Administrative Director Doug Wolliver, who presents and explains our budget proposals, and General Counsel Nancy Mead, who provides information on bills and statutes. And one last introduction. I would like to introduce Suzanne DiPietro, the Executive Director of the Alaska Judicial Council. As you know, this council nominates judicial candidates for appointment by the governor. Over the past 5 years, the council has helped fill 40 judicial positions statewide, well over half of the judicial positions statewide. And as usual, the council will also evaluate the 22 candidates who will be standing for retention election next fall. Please help me thank Suzanne DiPietro and the Alaska Judicial Council for their hard work. I begin my presentation by announcing that the state of the judicial branch is strong. Our branch is made up of about 700 hardworking Alaskans, united in our mission to provide an accessible and impartial forum for resolving cases brought to it in accordance with the rule of law. We have an outstanding collection of hardworking employees, those who image document after document in a closed case file to create a permanent record, those who sit in a courtroom each day to properly handle the exhibits and files and official recordings of hearings and trials, those judicial officers who travel to a jail twice a day to arraign criminal defendants so that the system can save the costs and avoid the safety issues that attend prisoner transports, and those members of our accounting staff who handle jurors' paychecks, collect restitution for crime victims, and account for bail payments. I am very proud to say to you that we are all dedicated to resolving the legal conflicts that Alaskans encounter and ensuring that they are adjudicated fairly and efficiently in a neutral forum in accordance with the rule of law. We have a number of challenges as well. The principal challenge, as I'm sure you would expect, is the tight budget environment. And here I would like to sincerely thank the legislature for its consistent support of the judiciary. When we were cutting our budget for a total of almost $11 million over a 3-year period, you funded us at the reduced levels we proposed and did not cut further. And over the past 2 years, you have funded the modest increments that we have requested. We come to you for only the things we need, and you have always responded. We are grateful for our long-standing good relationship with the legislature. But we are all parts of the same state, and we've all had to get by with less. Courts do not have optional programs that can be cut, and we've had to accommodate every decrement to our budget by adjusting some of our core functions. We have cut our spending on personnel by decreasing the number of staff and by cutting hours and salaries, but those changes have absolutely resulted in a reduction of services to the public. Unlike some other parts of state government, where a unique program can be eliminated or a project can be halted when the budget is reduced, our tasks did not change, and our workload and responsibilities did not correspondingly decrease. In fact, the court system has seen unprecedented increases in our workload. In fiscal year 2019, the number of felony case filings was the highest ever. We received over 7,300 new felony filings, which is over 1,000 more than just 2 years ago. And data from early this fiscal year shows that upward trend is continuing. The number of new child in need of aid cases has similarly reached new highs in recent years. It has grown from about 1,500 10 years ago to over 2,500 cases in fiscal year 19. Again, the most recent data from this fiscal year indicates the number of these cases is also continuing to grow. A recent count of all cases open and active at the trial court level showed a nearly 20% increase over the number of open cases on the same day 5 years ago. Looking at felonies only, we have 40% more active felony cases now than we had 5 years ago. So we have a 20% increase in all open trial court cases and a 40% increase for the felony cases, while the number of court staff has been decreased by about 9%, and our overall budget has also been reduced. Simply put, we have fewer resources than we used to, but there has unfortunately been no corresponding moratorium on crimes being committed, no decrease in the rate of child abuse and neglect, no lowered divorce rate, and no decline in the need for justice to be dispensed in other important areas. However, I am proud to report that over the same period that our funding has declined, we have found efficiencies and opportunities. We are covering a number of rural court locations with traveling circuit-style magistrate judges, which allows us to have fewer staff but cover the caseload in the rural areas effectively. We have a program in most of our courts to review every single divorce and custody case very soon after it's been filed, to see if it seems to be one that could be handled with volunteer attorneys, mediators, or by a settlement judge who can help the parties find a resolution by agreement. This program impacts a significant number of families. Since the program began 10 years ago, well over 2,200 cases have gone through the one-day settlements, with over 80% settling in that day. It's a time and money saver for both the family and the court, and because it's a negotiated settlement, fewer of these cases come back to the court for later revision. We've also been staffing a committee that provides practical training to attorneys and others involved in child in need of aid cases. This ensures that agency staff who deal in this area all have the same baseline of knowledge. This also benefits the court by helping to streamline court hearings in those cases. We've centralized our processing of mental competency proceedings in criminal cases. Now, whenever feasible, one designated judge handles them all. These cases can be processed much more efficiently when one judge can control this entire docket. And I am particularly proud to say that at the trial level, we have absolutely prioritized children's cases and criminal cases, with the goal that we will have a judge available if the parties are ready to have a trial on any particular day. That may mean moving other matters around the calendar or hiring pro tem retired judges when funds are available, but in the court system's view, it is part of our constitutional responsibility. So we've been doing our part. We've cut our employees and our costs, we've handled a higher workload, and we've been able to achieve results beyond what you might expect. Now, though, to ensure that our staff and our judges are able to continue to do their jobs effectively, we must seek some limited additional resources this year. I'd like to highlight a few of those areas where we need funds. Last year, the governor negotiated and the legislature funded 3-year contracts with several executive branch unions. Those contracts included cost of living increases of 3% for fiscal year 20 and 1% for both fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22. Last year, the legislature approved the same cost of living adjustment for the non-judicial employees in the court system. For fiscal year 21, we are requesting a 1% cost of living adjustment for the same non-judicial employees to match the adjustment for the executive branch union employees. Second, we have a backlog in the Court of Appeals, where appeals of criminal cases are resolved. The 3 judges on that court are working grueling schedules to reduce this backlog. But because the number of felony cases filed in 2019 was the highest ever, it does not appear that the workload for the Court of Appeals will decline soon. We have been able to hire some temporary retired judges to help when funds are available, and have instituted a number of other efficiencies. For example, the Court of Appeals is now issuing more summary dispositions of cases that do not present any novel legal theories. But we cannot continue to address the problem without additional resources. Because of this backlog, The court system is supporting a bill already introduced and heard last year, Senate Bill 55, that was sponsored by Senator Wilson. This would allow a temporary fourth Court of Appeals judge to be appointed. The fourth judge would be tremendously valuable in our efforts to keep pace with these new filings and chip away at the backlog. Along with supporting the fourth temporary judge provided for in SB 55, the court system has a budget request for a permanent Court of Appeals staff attorney, a position that can handle straightforward motions and prepare draft opinions for the judges to consider. We believe that these two approaches, the temporary judge and the permanent attorney, will be the most constructive and cost-effective way to help us bring these criminal cases to a timely resolution for the benefit of victims, the parties, and the public at large. Thank you for considering this request. Third, the therapeutic courts that we operate have been shown to truly help Alaskans who are involved in the justice system and have underlying addiction or mental health issues. When defendants are able to adhere to the strict rules and requirements of the program and finally graduate, they are less likely to commit another crime. These successful courts are very resource intensive, though. The team sets up social services for the participants, helps them with housing and finding jobs, meets with them consistently and often, and uses a number of tools to ensure that they can succeed. The number of therapeutic courts has doubled from 6 to 12 over the last decade, and our statewide coordinator is in dire need of help. To keep these therapeutic courts thriving, we are seeking a deputy coordinator position. That person could explore options for expanding the courts if there are sufficient treatment, housing, and job opportunities in the community, and could work with the agency attorneys and social workers involved to make all the therapeutic court cases flow more smoothly. If you see the importance of these programs as much as we do, I hope you provide the funding for this position this year. You will, of course, hear more about these requests and the other needs of the judiciary in the coming weeks as Deputy Director Doug Wolliver has the opportunity to explain the background and answer all your questions about these requests. Finally, as we move forward, I must also mention the important ideal that the judicial branch must continue to decide cases in accordance with the facts determined by impartial judges and the rule of law based on the Constitution, the statutes you provide, and the common law developed through prior decisions. The court system will continue to do our work independently of any outside political interests or financial influences, so that the public can continue to be certain that each court decision is fair and impartial. I can also assure you that the court system maintains an unbreakable commitment to continue to deliver equal justice for all, no matter the obstacles we face. Despite the growing workloads and the decreased staffing, we are determined to fulfill our obligation to decide all matters brought before us fairly and efficiently with respect for the parties involved, the interests of the public, and the rule of law. I appreciate your patience as I spoke today. Thank you for the work that you are now undertaking, and best wishes from the entire judicial branch for a productive legislative session. Thank you.
That was Alaska Supreme Court Chief Justice Joel Bolger's 2020 State of the Judiciary Address. To briefly recap, he described an unprecedented increase in the court system's workload, including the most felony filings ever in the last fiscal year. He had a few legislative asks. Some limited additional resources was the phrase he used. He's looking for a 1% cost of living adjustment for court system employees. He's supporting Senate Bill 55 by Senator Wilson, which would increase some staffing at the Court of Appeals level. And he said we have an unbreakable commitment to deliver equal justice for all. This concludes our special coverage of Alaska Supreme Court Chief Justice Joel Bolger's State of the Judiciary address to the Alaska Legislature. We've got more special coverage to come next week. U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski is scheduled to address the Alaska Legislature in the Capitol at 11 a.m. next Tuesday. A date for U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan's address hasn't been set yet. This special Gab Alaska coverage was presented by KTOO in Juneau. I'm Jeremy Shea. Thanks for joining us.